Hello and welcome to CobaltRetroShop. Hope you're having an amazing day. You can't see my thumb because we are in VR right now, but yeah, today's another VR video, but it's special this time around. Yeah, we're not in Linux, we're actually in Windows right now. That's how you can tell, because it's actually performing very well. Today's video is actually a certain type of review. Now, it's been a while since I've done a review video, so bear with me on this. I actually received this product on Steam for free in exchange for this review. Now, it's not technically a sponsorship because I haven't gotten money with this, but I do have to disclose that I have gotten this product for free with the intention of reviewing it. Under normal circumstances, when it comes to VR stuff kind of in general, with the exception of trying to do VR in Linux stuff, I don't really have the habit of doing VR stuff on my channel. If you go through my channel, you'll see that's definitely this case. However, this time around, there is an exception. This piece of software is something that I have been looking for basically since I got this Valve Index. And that's a way to do emulation stuff with this headset. Now, you might be talking to yourself, say, hey, there's already ways to do that. And you're right, but not necessarily in the context of Steam VR. See, there are emulation packages out there that are VR compatible, but I was looking for one specific thing with VR packages, and as far as I am aware, this software suite is the only one that can do what I'm doing on Steam VR on PC. Now, what I'm talking about today is this virtual handheld. Now, keep in mind this software is currently in early access, so by the time you guys get to it, there might be some differences. It might be more polished or something like that. As a matter of fact, the developer recently published another update to this software to kind of polish things even more. And obviously, since it's early access, they're still kind of working on things. Hopefully, they'll be able to get out of early access soon, but that's how it is right now. So, essentially, what this software is a kind of wrapper for people to be able to play retro games in VR. Why that's really cool for me is less that it's a wrapper for emulation in general. That stuff is really cool. But the part that I'm very, very excited about, and we'll get to that in a second, but this can do Virtual Boy emulation, but not only Virtual Boy emulation, but with proper 3D support. As far as I'm aware, last time I checked, there is a way to do proper 3D emulation with Virtual Boy in VR, but it's stuck on the ARM-based MetaQuest, whatever the hell it's called, the Oculus Quest, the mobile version of the Quest ecosystem. So there's no way to do this on PC. You can do Oculus stuff with this program called Revive. That does work, and I do plan on making a video about that specifically in the future. But this doesn't work with what I wanted to work with, specifically with doing proper Virtual Boy emulation. This program does do that. But before we get to actual gameplay, I just want to show you around this program a little bit. First things first, we have this general screen for a bunch of different type of settings here for FPS counters, joystick, multiplayer stuff. We got virtual gamepad settings, blah, blah, blah. Fairly basic stuff. This is where you do bindings and set everything up. I think this program does a default mapping option, but when I tried to reset the bindings after messing with things, it left it totally blank, so I'm not sure what's going on there. So sometimes I'm not smart. Or more accurately, I forget things. What I forgot during the process of making this video is getting those controller presets, which are in here, the pre-start or quick start guide. We've got some presets right here, and that controller preset I was working with and then totally nuked it because I had no idea what I was doing. That one, basic controller setup. It really should have been easier, but I made it harder on myself because I forgot things. So, maps, pre-done maps, right here. I just forgot how to do that, if that made sense. So I just went through everything and remapped it manually. It seems to work, but we'll get to that later. There's a keyboard and mouse preset, and there's a gamepad preset. For the sake of simplicity with RetroArch, I used the gamepad controller preset, and because I prefer Microsoft's controller layout, I just do the Xbox 360 layout, because that's what makes sense to me. However, there is a DualShock 4 gamepad type. I can't change to that, though, because I'm currently using it, as you'll see in a second. And here we get to the settings for the actual virtual handheld, which we can get to that in a second. But this is where the actual program gets its name. We'll get to that in a second, though. Here we can modify different colors of the actual handheld. I'm not super interested in that at the moment. But if we go down to tracking here, we can go into the different kinds of presets for how this software works. Now, what am I talking about here? The virtual handheld is summoned in a space like this or Steam VR Home, but from my testing so far, it works best in this kind of in-between state that Steam VR can have. Now, I would prefer some kind of button to push to bring up the virtual handheld program, but I am not joking when I say this, but the way to bring up the software once you have the actual game launched is you clack the controllers together, which is kind of hilarious, because it doesn't work as well as a button input. So if we could do some testing here, it's supposed to be 2 taps to close it and open it. And of course it's behaving more because I have a camera on this. But in my experience so far, it's been a bit on the temperamental side. So, I actually have RetroArch running right now. This is the view of the roster of Teleroboxer. I actually have the core configured to have the game actually in blue rather than red, just to be different. But as you can see here, this is the virtual handheld that I'm talking about. It has the controls on the side of the screen, and then the screen itself in the center, but there are some other presets. So as you can see here, kind of on the side, as I'm pushing buttons here, it does show the user what the input is, and even the trackpads of index controllers do work. However, it's not the best experience just because of how these trackpads can map. The developer might be able to work on that, but from what I can tell, it's not a great experience even on the developer side, so I wouldn't hold my breath. If you have index controllers, I wouldn't hold my breath on that working 100% correctly. But so far in my testing, the joysticks definitely do, and the side buttons and the... don't know why it did that. Maybe I was gripping it too hard and triggering one of the buttons, because I do have start and select mapped to the grip. It's not ideal, but there's not a whole lot of buttons on these controllers anyways. So what's going on here is I have RetroArch set to side-by-side 3D, and that's one of the ways you can actually get true 3D on this program. And that's the thing that I'm most excited about with Virtual Handheld, is I can actually do proper 3D emulation. And here you can also choose the different kinds of colors. And the most important one right here is forcing the right analog to digital so you can actually use it with Virtual Boy emulation. I'm not sure why right analog isn't on for this by default. It's kind of necessary for Virtual Boy emulation to work properly, at least with a game like Teleroboxer. I haven't tried many other games though, so your mileage may vary. But for Teleroboxer specifically, you need this option on. So to start configuring the screens and stuff, all you have to do is go to here and select, on my case, I have it on the main screen, which is the screen that goes between the controllers, not on top of the controllers. However, you can have both screens up if you want to do Nintendo DS or similar emulation. So that's how you get the handheld configured to look like this. It's got to be 16 by 9 for 3D. Okay, I guess that makes sense. So we're turning on side-by-side 3D. And now that looks a little stretched out, I'll be honest. But yeah, 16 by 9 is the only one that works with the 3D. At least with how this is currently set up. And finally, there's a few different presets to how these work in your VR world. There's the handheld mode, which this is currently in. We have a TV mode, which puts it in a specific spot for tilted and upright. There's a big screen mode. There's a place in world mode. I'm not entirely sure how that works. That probably requires something that I don't use, like VR chat or something. And then there's a headlock mode, which just puts it, as you can see, in the center of your vision at all times. Yeah, and that should be pretty much everything. And at this point, I'm ready to show you this software running Virtual Arc and playing Virtual Boy games in a VR system. I never said I was particularly good at this game, but I do love this game. Okay. Oh yeah. KO! Anyways, so yeah, I mean, that's Virtual Handheld in a nutshell here. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this software. It's a little clunky to set up, in my opinion, at least in its current state. Please remember that this is in early access, so things are definitely going to change, and the developer is very much interested in adding support for like more types of controllers and more system support, like the Nintendo Wii or something like that. And the developer is definitely interested in making the whole process smoother overall. So this is definitely going to change, but even in its current state, I'm very happy with how this works, especially with the 3D. Honestly, the 3D is a little bit subtle, but the 3D on the Virtual Boy in and of itself is somewhat subtle. So I would say it's pretty much 1-to-1. The only thing I'd really want to truly change is to be able to do more fine control when it comes to like aspect ratio stuff, because I'll have to double check what it looks like on an actual Virtual Boy. I still have my actual Virtual Boy, by the way, but when I set up the view to play the actual Virtual Boy game, it seemed a bit stretched out, in my opinion. And just checking some stuff out here real quick. It's a little hard to show the skins and the options at the same time because of how this preset works, but there are some customization options, and you can definitely poke around with things a lot, which is great. Let me get that going. So yeah, I mean, you could definitely customize how this looks as well. If I were to have a piece of feedback with this as well, I would think about adding some kind of image support, so you can like make up a border image in like Krita or Paint.net or something and just import it here like that, so you can have like a customized border thing. That would be really cool, but as it is right now, it has some pretty good presets, at least a little on the basic level. But I'm glad to have it at all, to be honest. And of course, you may have seen it earlier, there's a whole lot of other different kinds of stabilizations and tracking options and that kind of stuff too, if you want to poke around with it a little bit. But yeah, the actual like emulation part of it, this actual program has no direct emulation stuff. The idea of this software is to bring your own emulator. In my case, I use RetroArch, but anything that could interact with this software at all could also, in theory, be compatible. I haven't tried a whole lot of options outside of RetroArch, but honestly, if you're going to do anything with this software, I'd recommend also using RetroArch, because that's like the catch-all thing, which works with most things, including this software, obviously. So yeah, what happened with my case with the what happened with my case with the default mappings is I think there was some kind of default mapping, but by trying to reset the bindings after messing with things, it had everything completely blank in terms of actually translating the controller. So I'm not sure what happened there. There's not a whole lot in terms of default mappings, at least from what I can tell. It's possible that I could have done something wrong, but I had to set up everything myself. But honestly, it wasn't that hard. All I did was set up the layout as I would like it as the controller mapping here, and then I went into RetroArch and mapped all the controls with the controller mapper on RetroArch. So in general, I'm actually very happy with this software, even if it is a touch rough around the edges. And I'm not saying that just because I got this copy free for a review. I'm actually very happy with this software. And I'm actually playing a game right now as I'm saying this. And yeah, the 3D is actually pretty much on par as to what I would experience on an actual Virtual Boy. So I would say passing marks with that. Obviously, as I've said a few times, I believe this software does need a little bit more polish, but the developer acknowledges that and they're working on that. Other than that, I expected this software to require a lot more setup and tinkering, partially because I'm a Linux guy, and you know, I come to expect that of especially unusual software like this or early access software, but especially for early access software, it was actually very painless to set up, relatively speaking. You know, there was a couple of things I needed to do. It wasn't exactly just plug and play, but it was pretty easy to set up. What? Pause. Okay, maybe having mapping buttons to the grip sensors isn't the greatest idea. But, I mean, I have index controllers. My button options are a bit limited. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with the software. And not just because I'm making a review, and not because I got the software for free in exchange for a review. I'm actually pretty happy with this, and I'm stoked I finally have a way to do proper Virtual Boy emulation with my PC without any MetaQuest stuff. So thank you for the developer for making this software. Thank you for the developer for letting me do a review for this product in exchange for this product. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Check out my socials including Twitter and Tumblr, and I also have the CobaltRetroShop eBay store and the Patreon page linked in the description below if you would like to support this channel more directly. Speaking of the Patreon page, I do have to thank Kilo supporter Indian Mac for helping make Cobalt Retro Tech possible. Thank you. And with all that being said, I will see you in the next video.